And this is like a situation where you find yourself in a race, and I did it in Tulsa Tough. Like I said, it felt like no cohesion and everybody was just trying to cut each other's throats. And what you try to do as a racer is you try to see through that and rise above it. But I absolutely found myself just like jumping into the knife party and just doing the same thing, because it's kind of like it brings you down to that. So you're like, okay, so we're just diving into the inside and just chopping everybody's wheels off. Okay, I guess that's what needs to happen. That's what I need to do to move forward, because that's what the people at the front must be doing.
It's the culture.
What's that, Nate?
It's the culture of the race, and then it affects everybody.
And it's easy to get drugged down to that. And it's also really easy to assume this very thing, like you're talking about, Amber, is that like, I guess that's just what I have to do. But it's a rare circumstance, and certainly in a much more rare circumstance where that sort of racing, where just being, and I wouldn't call it aggressive, I would be calling it reckless. Being reckless doesn't deliver consistent performances.
Right.
It might yield a really good performance every once in a while, but it's not the sort of thing that you can count on to give you success over time. And it certainly isn't a strategy that you can like bank on and build on and kind of like have like a book of expertise to be able to pull from, to be able to execute in different races. So when you find yourself in that situation, I found myself doing that. And then suddenly I was like, I need to search for better lines. I need to think, I need to play chess while they're playing checkers, basically. Like I need to think around this whole thing. So, but it's really easy. I bet a lot of people listening to this have felt this, where you're not proud of it. You started to race like the same thing that you hate that's going on in the race. But that's just happening.
Doesn't that all go back to the notion that, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face? That sort of idea. It's so situational. You show up in a case like this and you're committed to racing hard and performing well. So once you see what's in front of you, what you have to do to accomplish those things, you just follow suit. I mean, the alternative to sink to the back of the field or to pull out. And you don't travel all the way to Oklahoma to do either of those things. Yeah, worth that.
But no, we'll let Amber go through it. But like, this is me, right? My fitness was higher than my skill, and I am not I'm not an aggressive rider at all.
No.
I take risks, like I'm going to go off the front, but I don't like dive anything. We'll talk more about it, but I'll get my thoughts organized as Amber goes through it all. But I love the idea of you do not have to be this like, I'm going to bump handlebars, fight for this position, be dangerous, cause maybe crashes in order to win a Cat 3 race at all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And one last note on this too. You are not alone at all in this, Calvin. I felt that and I've just expressed it. Everyone that I spoke to in the men's pro field, the same exact thing. The bubble behind Legion, behind their train, is a knife fight. And it's a total lack of respect and care. And it's just recklessness trying to get to that position. So it's not just you, Calvin. I think a lot of riders go through this at the top all the way to the bottom.
For those who don't know, and then let me let Amber go. Legion is a dominant field in USA crit racing. And they have an amazing train and really good sprinters on their team. And Justin Williams has been on our podcast before. So everyone else wants to be behind them because their train is going so fast. So you have
powerful and skilled. Yeah,
exactly. So you have like 5 teams of people all trying to fight for one wheel. And then Legion usually also has somebody on like Justin or Corey's wheel, their 2 top sprinters, to make sure that there's a gap between their 2. And so it's even more aggressive there. And you can imagine having like, I don't know, 20 men in that field trying to fight for one wheel who are all pretty aggressive inside of that and really want to win at a high stage. That can get pretty sketch pretty fast. At least I don't want to be in that situation. That sounds scary.
Yeah.
Well, this is exactly what skill does for you, right? And let me just back up for a second. There's the skill that you build over years that brings you up to an elite level of skill. But then there's also the fluctuations that you see in your skill level over the course of a season. So even as a professional, 10 years into my career, the early season races felt rusty. I felt kind of squirrely. It took a while to get back into the rhythm and really hone that race intuition again. So understanding that even if you were racing 2 years ago at a really high level and felt really, really skilled, after you've gone a whole year without racing and you're coming into your early season races, you've got to mentally adjust your expectations for where your skills are, where they are right now. And so it's important to say, okay, where are my skills in the big picture, but where are my skills today? Did I get 3 hours of sleep last night and I might not be making the best decisions today. You have to think about those things and accommodate them. But the skill level that you build over years, what that does for you is it enables you to be proactive versus reactive. And I think what was happening in this case was, and Jonathan, as you were describing this is a great example. You're reacting to what's going on in the race. And because you don't have a library of races under your belt leading up to this that builds confidence in your skill set, you're not practiced at being proactive instead of reacting to what's happening in the field. And at that point, there's so much going on that instead of rising above to be proactive, you feel like you go into survival mode and you have to just react. And so the skill level is sort of the difference there. And the skill level, again, is the skill level over time and years. And it's also the skill level throughout a season. So I think, John, you have a very high level of skill over the years, which is probably why you were able to keep it upright in 3 out of those 4 incidents that you're describing. High level of skill that's enabling you to manage those situations and even to crash well when you did hit the deck. But then this was an early season race for you. You haven't been racing crits a lot. So that part was affecting your ability to rise above and be proactive. You were reacting to what was happening in the field. So let's talk a little bit about what goes into developing these skills. So like I said, it's not just flipping a mental switch. You have to build skill to go with it, right? Like it doesn't work
Red
to
Bulls.
just
Let's do it.
Right. So the skill piece is crucial. This is the difference between being dangerously aggressive or reckless, as Jonathan is putting it. And I like that word because it does imply that there is danger and risk of harm, versus being skillfully assertive or aggressive. And I think that when people use the word aggressive, they use it to mean many things. And it's easy to get misinterpreted and think that it just means, oh, I just have to push people around. No, not if you don't have the skill to back that up and do it safely. So what the skill does is it enables you to have good positioning, which, yes, in some cases that requires you to be assertive and aggressive, but you can do that in a way that's actually safe and not likely to cause harm if you can do it skillfully. And this good positioning is the piece that most people refer to when they're talking about aggression. And if you don't have the skill to go with it, then you're just moving into places and putting yourself in positions that are actually dangerous and risky to you and to those around you. But when you have skill, you know how to do that in a way that's safe. Mm-hmm. The other thing that skill does is it enables you to have tactical focus, right? And the tactical focus is that proactive piece. So instead of reacting to what the riders immediately around you are doing, if you're highly skilled, you are able to have more cognitive efficiency, which is you're not reacting to every single little thing in the field. You are zeroing in with very narrow focus on exactly what's essential to pay attention to stay safe. And that opens up some cognitive space for you to pay attention to what's happening in the race tactically. And that's where you can actually be proactive. So your skills allow you to be physically safe, not reacting to all the little things around you, but focused on the things that are important and essential to actually winning the race. And that's really the biggest difference between racing for a solid finish and racing for a win. And this is something that when I'm talking to riders who are moving up through the categories, they're looking at earning upgrade points and maybe catting up, I really recommend staying in your category until you've learned to race to win, because it does require a different level of skill and a different level of mentality, right? So once you've had some of those solid finishes, maybe you do have enough points to upgrade. Hang out in your category until you've won a couple races and you've discovered and learned the difference in mentality and skill that the difference between racing for a solid finish and racing for the win. So when we talk about that mentality and that cognitive efficiency, racing to win is a narrow focus. So as an example, there's a lot of things that you can actually ignore if you have the skill to go with it. So you can ignore attacks that are probably not going to stick or breaks that probably won't stick. You might not necessarily need to go with surges that you know aren't really essential or important. You can pretty much ignore 80% of the field if you're skilled and you're positioned near the front. And that's a whole lot of information and stimulus that your brain doesn't have to process, that allows your brain to instead focus on what's happening tactically in the field. So what do you actually want to be focused on? Well, this is, again, a difference in mentality. So instead of focusing on a lot of things that are going on around you and reacting to those things, you are laser focused on contenders. Who are the contenders? Who are the teams and individuals that are most likely to win this race? What are they doing? Good lines. What are the good lines through the corners? What are the good lines, especially coming into the finish? Where is the wind coming from? What are the dynamics of the field? Are there some corners where you can gain position pretty easily with free speed? Who wants a break? Who doesn't want a break? As you race, you'll start to realize that there's a likely path to a win. How can you set yourself up to be on that path at the crucial moments of the race? So that would look like, what does your position need to be in the last laps? What does your position need to be in the last 2 corners? Those are the things you're thinking about if you're racing for the win, but you can't think about those things if you don't have the skill to be in the right place, to be safe, to be in a position to not cause harm to you or others around you. And you can't be thinking about those things if you're reacting to too much around you. And again, you know, when Jonathan was describing his experience at Tulsa, he's a highly, highly skilled racer who's still feeling like he needs to react to the field because it's an early season race and everybody's rusty. So it's really important to take those things into account and really work on these skills, especially before you're going to cat up to a new category.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, but Amber and I have a race analysis coming out from the criteriums that I did before this race, where we talk about that very thing, and we go over some visual examples of things that I was doing wrong and doing well about shaking the rust off, so to speak. Or I probably just mixed metaphors there, but you know what I mean. It's that early season, I guess, lack of familiarity that you have. Everyone experiences it for sure. Any other thoughts on this, Amber?
I just want to reiterate, when you hear people talk about, oh, you got to be aggressive, it's not just about throwing yourself into a position that you think is a good position without having the skill to back it up or to hold that position. Being willing to take risks. Again, it's a difference between physical and tactical. So don't confuse the risk of crashing with the risk of losing. So taking a tactical risk is committing yourself 100% to a move that might not stick. None of us has a crystal ball in the race. Even the smartest, most experienced racers can't tell you for certain whether a move or a tactic that they're going to use is going to work. But if it's going to work, you better commit to it 100%. That's a risk. That's the kind of risk that you want to take when you're thinking about winning, not the kind of risk of throwing your body into a place where it may not be safe and it may cause harm to yourself or others. So that's, you know, that physical risk of putting yourself in a bad spot. So don't do that. Don't confuse that kind of aggression with the tactical assertiveness that's backed up with skill. And the way that you develop those skills is you go out and race and you stay within your skill set, which is to say, do you feel in control? Do you feel like you could handle a situation if something unexpected happened? And if you start to feel out of control in a race, that's a good signal that maybe, you know, you need to start focusing more on putting yourself into positions that aren't so vulnerable, that aren't so risky. And those are just things that you learn with time. It's not just something where you just flip a switch and suddenly you can do it. It takes time and it takes skill. That's okay. It doesn't mean you're a bad bike racer. That's what we all have to do. But yeah, so I encourage everybody to just work on those skills in the races, work on those skills when you're on group rides. Working on those skills and training on group rides is a really great time to do it because the pressure is lower and you can really focus on one skill at a time. But allow yourself some time, some focus and effort on building those skills as you start to work towards racing for a win versus racing for a solid finish.
Yeah. Great advice, Amber.
I got some stuff.
All right.
No, Chad, you go. Chad, you're new to the podcast.
Right. So, and I'm not distilling this down. Here's what I've gleaned from this and here's what I've applied over the years is that skill is similar to fitness in that then when you have it, as it builds, it increases confidence. Confidence allows you to be more relaxed. The more relaxed you are, the greater your cognitive bandwidth. And ironically, or paradoxically perhaps, the greater your ability to narrow your focus, to dismiss all the stuff that isn't important in the moment. So it really does, it comes with time. Both those things do, both skill and fitness.
Yeah, the relaxation piece is so important. Sorry, Nate. Yeah, just 100%.
No. This is exactly, I have a TikTok and Instagram exactly. So they just said it so well, and I'm going to try to explain it, and it's not going to work as well. I don't think Chad's seen any of these things, but
I've seen a few.
Okay, Calvin, what you got 11th place out of 100, and this Tulsa Tough had like what 8 turns, right, John? Something like that.
The first day, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that we talking about the first day?
3, 4. He's
With
talking
Calvin?
about the other days that he did as well, which all 3 days are on different courses. So
Okay. Either way, when you have in Cat 3 fields, in my experience, I'm guessing there wasn't like huge teams on this. I'm thinking in Cat 3 there wasn't like 4 dominant teams, like Legion wasn't in Cat 3 doing this sort of stuff.
And there's a difference between when you're talking about, and sorry, Dave, but there's a difference between like a lot of people wearing the same jersey and then a team actually working together in a cohesive manner, right?
Yep. And so when you finish a Cat 3 field like this, it's either if it's technical, it's usually a strung out thing on the last lap where your position, you're really just sprinting against 4 other riders, right? 4 other athletes. And depending on where you're at, and sometimes there's someone who's an excellent sprinter who comes from like 6th to 1st. But in general, if it's technical and it's fast, your position matters more, Calvin, of where you were probably on lap 4 or 5, or a little split decision you made on lap 2 when the field bunched up. And that's your whole race right there. And then all you have to do is be in that position, or be in the position to be able to take advantage of that, and then to be able to sprint at the very end against like 3 or 4 riders. That's generally how it is, which it seems kind of crazy. You could be the fittest person and have the best sprint, but if you come in at like, if you were 14th wheel and you sprinted to 11, if you were at 3rd wheel, you'd probably sprint to 1st. Mm-hmm. And so when you think of it, it's not really your sprint, it's where you positioned earlier on. And as John said in his race, and the last lap is way too late. And 2, if you try to move position up in that last lap, that burns a match and that takes off watts of your top end sprint. Sometimes you'll see it on our own race analysis where at the last lap, everyone's a solo rider and the field bunches up. And then you can do the slingshot thing and go on a long bomb. But on a 100-person field, you should know ahead of time that bunch will make it where John said it will fill the whole road. You cannot do it. If there's a 20-person field, you could totally do that. 20-person field too, people will look at each other. A 100-person field, probably not. And you're not going to be able to have that kind of tactic depending on the course and how wide it is and stuff. So when you look at it, try to think of how big the field is and how big the course is, and then how technical it is going through. Because if it's super fast and you're taking turns, there's usually not room to be able to come in and move up spots. Maybe a spot or 2, but also if it's super fast and people are really sticking to wheels, it can be hard to get in inside of it, and you just I've done it before where you're just like in the wind for the last lap to get in the right position. That's not good either. So the mentality, I think, Calvin, is to save a bunch of energy. So if you're going for the win, and as Amber said, there's different ways. If you're going to commit to the sprint finish at the end, your mentality should be like, my race is only going to be 4 laps forward to the end. And that's when I'm going to start turning it on. That's what I'm going to put on. If a breakaway goes in that time, I'm going to let it go. And if it doesn't happen this time, it doesn't happen this time. But what I know for sure is I can't cover 3 breaks and try to sprint at the end. Either I got to go all in on a break and put all my energy in, but I can't go halfway in on a break thinking that I might sprint in the end too. That's the best way to never lose. And you see people do that. They get in like 4 or 5 different breaks and they try to sprint, and the breaks never really stick. They don't go hard on them. It's very rare that a rider goes hard into a break and also then does a sprint finish if they're not like head and shoulders above the rest in fitness. You do see people who do that who are in the wrong category, and they can do that easily. But if you're in the right category, that's probably not a thing. So it's basically just positioning, I think. And then it's like, Amber, do you think this too? It's like 3 seconds. Your whole race is like 3 seconds of decisions.
Yeah.
It's like really teeny ones at the end.
The little tiny decisions that you have to decide quickly and execute on them quickly. And what you're describing right now of letting the break go with the risk that it could stick because you're committed to the sprint, that's the tactical risk that we're talking about. You make those decisions and you got to commit to them, and you have to execute the second that you make that decision. And sometimes, it's less than a second to decide. And
it's not assertive, it's decisive. So
yes.
if you wait at all,
yes.
If you wait at all, don't even go. You've already decided. It has to be like almost if I throw a ball at someone's face and they put their hands up, that's how fast it has to be. You can't think of, should I catch this ball? Like, you're going to get hit in the face with the ball if you do that. So I think that's the biggest thing. That's what's helped me is at that end, if you see it, you just do it and you feel it and you go, and that's that learned skill that happens. And then you'll learn after a while if it's good or not. And the best thing is you have ex-pro riders watch your race footage and tell you what you did, Brad. That's a really fast learning curve. That helps. Thank you, Amber and Pete.
Saying it another way, I think the riders that win races, particularly races like this, have a game plan and they commit to that and they make the right decisions for that. They don't get thrown off. They can have a plan B that they audible to, sure, but they don't get thrown off. They're decisive. Right. They know what they want. They know how they can win, and then they do that. So
if they're going to switch to plan B, they're 100% in on plan B, and they're 100% out on plan A.
Exactly. And there's and you don't continue down that cascade of plan G, plan H. You don't do that. You have a few ways that you can win, and you commit to that. So
example, Snelling Road Race. It's my most popular race analysis video. I was like looking at the thing Pete was telling me, and we're like, okay, the last 5 minutes, it's like this, the wind is this way, the teams are going to do this. And I had this whole like plan about when I was going to make my move and stuff. And then a break went away and it went and we could not even see them in a road race. And so I bridged, but in that bridge, like if I didn't make it and the field caught me, I was going to DNF or like ride home by myself. I wasn't going to like 100% in, and it was I was gonna be destroyed. If a fast field came by me, there was no chance for me to be able to pick it up and catch on. If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.